This video looks at the best pins, the best Osaekomi wins of the Cadet World Judo Championships, including the teams event. So we're going to start off with Ingrid Nilsson of Sweden, and she's going to submit her French opponent with sankaku-gatame. So in my opinion, this is a case of a judoka that's submitting due to fatigue. I think this was fairly late in the match. If you go back to the start of the video, you'll see her with her hand on her hips. And the next one is another submission win. So in this case, I think it's more a case of discomfort as she moves into the kesa-gatame position with the weight centered right above her chest. She's unable to move and she gives up. Next is another sankaku-gatame win. There are a lot of sankaku-gatames in this video. If you're not a fan of sankaku-gatame, I recommend you stick around for the end of the video, because the last one is an unusual pin that I've not seen before. It looks extremely uncomfortable and it does seem to result in an injury. So there was a request in the comments for more detail on the difference between submitting and just pinning with Osaekomi when it comes to sankaku-gatame. I think it's a little bit hard to do a video on this topic just because unless you're inside that sankaku, you don't really know where the pressure is and how much your opponent is squeezing and how much is just them holding the lock rather than actively trying to pressure a choke. But all of these sankakus included in this video do look quite tight. Next we've got a come from behind victory. Sumi Gaishi scores waza-ari, but she's unable to come up to the top position and secure the hold down and gets trapped in kami-shiho-gatame, and it results in an ippon loss for the girl in blue. So this is the Canadian girl, Medilo. She was featured in the best submissions video from a few days ago. She had 2 submissions in that, a really nice ude-gatame win, as well as juji-gatame. Here's another sankaku-gatame. So this one I think does result in a submission. So I just used my judgment here and decided it was probably a case of the judoka in blue submitting because she realized she had no chance of escaping before the ippon count ended and just decided to get out of there. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this should have been in the best submissions video from a few days ago. But if you have seen that best submissions video, you already know I had a few sankaku-jime. So that was part of the reason I decided to include it in this one. Well, it looks like that one actually wasn't the submission. This is the one that ends with submission. So that last one was definitely an Osaekomi all the way. And this one we have a bit of a come from behind victory from the Ukraine girl. Looked like she was in a spot of trouble after the failed kataguruma. Was able to maneuver her way back to the top of the turtled player. And it took her some trying, and I would think a lot of the IJF referees would have called mate during this one, because at a lot of times during this pin it looks like she's on the verge of being stalled out. Especially here as she tried to dive to the floor to force the opponent down. I think a lot of refs would have called mate there. So good job by the referee in this case. You don't hear me say that a lot on this channel. So she moves into sankaku-gatame. Does look very tight. Looks like the butt is very close to the opponent's neck and the legs are flexed backwards. And eventually there is a submission. So was it that she couldn't breathe? She's gasping for air now. Or was it just that she knew the ippon count was getting closer and just wanted to get out of there? Now the last one for this video is one of the most unusual pins I've seen. So using a roll is quite a common technique, but I haven't seen somebody finish it in this way. So she goes for the roll and her opponent does stay on her shoulders. Typically you see people put their opponent's back directly onto the mat. Here she reaches behind the leg and traps the opponent's shoulder, rolling her up almost like a cradle. She's still got that arm trapped. Now it looks really dangerous for me, and I think the ref did a really poor job here. First he allows the judoka in white to put her hands all over her and pull on that arm, try and lift her up. So if that arm had been injured by the rolling technique or during the Osaekomi, possibly could have been damaged more. And at this point the ref still hasn't called for the doctor. So finally the referee decides to call for the doctor. And it's a bit of a mystery here as to why she's in trouble. Subscribe for more non-stop Noaza.